Welcome to the Sealed Pages.
Today we've opened the cover of Feroz Anka's newest collection. It's uh, a deeply reflective and pretty intense work titled What Remains Within, Carefully Curated Unspoken Truths.
It really is. And it feels like a culmination, doesn't it? Like the journeys he's been inviting us on have all been leading here.
Exactly. It brings all those big, abstract, philosophical questions right down into, the immediate chamber of the human heart. It feels very close.
That is precisely the feeling. For those who have followed Anka's explorations, you'll know the kind of thoughtful landscape we're entering. We've previously explored his earlier work, Lines of the Void, which was a more outward-facing philosophical poetic journey through symbols, masks, time, and chaos.
Right. It was asking that huge question. Are we living in reality or are we just living inside our own maps?
Yes. And then after that, we followed the quiet intensity of Paths to Myself.
Which felt like such a necessary guide to solitude. It was tracing that road from, the noise of crowds and all those borrowed voices.
Yeah. Moving through silence, through shadows.
And finally, toward a kind of inner harmony. And what remains within, it feels like it distills that whole search into this granular, really intense focus on the things we keep hidden.
Deliberately or accidentally. And maybe a quick note on the author himself, because his background creates this fascinating tension in the prose.
It really does.
Feroz Anka has spent a lot of time in these highly complex global systems. He transitioned from physics and computer science into these big leadership roles in software engineering, digital transformation.
And in that world, you have to translate massive ambiguity into analytical clarity.
Yeah.
You have to map chaos.
Exactly. And you can feel that analytical precision, that ability to map a chaotic system, just subtly woven into how he approaches emotional complexity.
That's it. He doesn't just describe a feeling. He almost dissects its architecture. He's offering orientation, not easy answers, in this profoundly unstructured world of the self.
And this book, What Remains Within, is really born in that tension. It's a collection of prose poems. It's the echo of an inner journey.
And it focuses on everything we push down. Unsaid words, that inner echo, death, regret, shame.
Fragile strength, forgotten feelings, shattered beliefs, and all the ways we try to escape ourselves and how we eventually inevitably return.
It's an intensely intimate experience. I mean, it's almost unsettling in its honesty, don't you think?
I do. The author frames it so directly. He says this is the voice of all that was never said.
It's a mirror for the feelings you might have spent years running from. And he's very clear about who this is for.
Yes, for those carrying that internal burden, unsent apologies, wrestling with unfinished goodbyes.
And facing those huge, crucial questions we almost never say out loud.
Like, will I be forgotten? Or, I think the one that hits the hardest, can I forgive myself? Anka sets this reflective, almost solemn tone from the very beginning. The invitation is really a challenge. If you have the courage, begin.
It feels very exclusive in a way. An invitation only for the self. And before we dive in, can we just talk about the cover for a moment? Because it sets the atmosphere so perfectly.
Oh, let's. It's a great place to start.
You see this closed-eyed profile rendered in these warm sort of rust tones. And it's just this immediate visual signal of deep inwardness.
Right. This is someone who is listening, not looking out at the world.
Exactly. They're listening to the internal tremors of their own unspoken life. It's all happening on the inside.
And if you look closely at the design, those subtle rising lines above the head, they aren't just, abstract shapes.
No, they feel like memories.
I think so. Memories and half-formed truths that are finally surfacing, as if the unspoken is just beginning to find its form, to rise up.
And the background, it's so textured and monochrome. It really mirrors the raw, intimate, emotional terrain the book explores. You're not getting polished surfaces here. This is going to be real.
It prepares you for rawness. So before we get into the text itself, maybe we should just quickly walk through the architecture, because it's this framework that really guides you through what feels like an emotional marathon.
It's so meticulous. The book is composed of 10 distinct sections, and it really does feel like a map for your own inner world.
The journey begins with the weight of the silenced voice in Section 1. That naturally leads us to contemplating death's nearness in Section 2.
And from there, it pivots inward to the intense reckonings you need to have to meet your true self in Section 3.
Then we deal with the emotional residue of broken bonds in 4, and the sheer weight of time in Section 5. It's a heavy first half.
It really is. And the second half feels like a confrontation with this moral and spiritual weight. We tackle shame and regret in Section 6.
Before moving toward this hard-won resilience, this fragile strength in 7.
Then there's a pause, a reflection on forgotten feelings in 8, before you face this crisis of shaken faith in 9.
And it all concludes with the nature of our escapes and our shelters in Section 10. It's a very intentional descent inward, followed by this slow, really thoughtful ascent back to some kind of clarity.
To wisdom, and maybe to acceptance.
Let's unpack that first major theme then. Section 1. Silence and themes in loudness of silence in unsaid sentences.
Yeah.
The conceptual core here is this idea that silence is, well, it's rarely empty, is it? It's often a much louder internal eruption.
Oh, it's packed. It's dense with the weight of swallowed words. And the imagery Anka uses is so visceral, it makes this abstract internal experience feel completely real.
In that piece, What Grows in My Silence, he talks about the words we swallow.
Yes, that they sit like stones, or even darker gravestones inside my chest.
It's not a gentle metaphor. That's a declaration that the unspoken is actively poisoning the self. It's this heavy, sinking weight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is where Anka's analytical mind comes in and provides the context, I think.
He examines the paradox of speech.
Yes, this very real dilemma that if you speak your words too soon, they just wither. Because, as he puts it, the soil is not ready.
And that insight is so crucial. It means that sometimes the silence isn't cowardice. It's a deliberate, almost structural choice. It's a recognition that speaking would just be a waste of a precious truth.
Right. The world often demands words that serve it, or words that fit into a narrative it already understands. And when your deepest truth collides with ears that just refuse to hear,
Or hearts that lack the courage to bear the answer.
then quiet becomes a form of internal cultivation. You retreat into the silence to protect the seed of that truth.
And this brings us to that profound conceptual shift in A Whisper Beyond the Scream. He contrasts the noisy, desperate scream that goes unheard.
The one that just vanishes before it reaches the shore.
Right. He contrasts that with the quiet whisper. The true meaning, he argues, is lost in all the public noise. It only grows inside the quiet.
And the whisper, because it requires proximity and real attention, leaves this permanent mark in the deepest place of the heart. It's the quiet things that truly land.
What I think really resonates here for a reflective reader is the introduction of a profound spiritual undercurrent, and it comes very early on. If you feel utterly alone in your silence, the text assures you that there is one who does hear and one who sees.
And that reframes the entire human struggle for expression, doesn't it? It suggests that some words aren't even meant for human ears.
They're meant to reach the ultimate source where they were conceived. It gives this ultimate purpose to that inner echo.
It's a turning point. It moves the whole thing from just a psychological struggle to a kind of existential acceptance. But the struggle itself is still so intense.
Oh, absolutely. He explores that in What Remains Between My Lips. It captures this crushing helplessness of knowing your truth just disappears into empty air.
It's that edge of the cliff moment. He writes, "If I step forward, I'll fall. If I stay quiet, I'll rot inside."
That emotional dichotomy is so real. It speaks to this existential isolation of having a truth so profound it feels like it would either destroy you if you release it or destroy you if you keep it contained.
It's that heavy, knowing silence that I think almost every sensitive person has experienced at some point, that feeling of being trapped by your own truth.
But Anka doesn't leave you there to rot. He transforms the meaning of that silence. He says it's not ceasing to exist, it is preparation.
That beautiful image of the earth staying wordless until what it hides turns green.
Exactly. Unsaid words, he writes, gather like a mountain, preparing the self to erupt when its hour comes. This idea of conceptual inevitability, it imbues our quiet periods with so much meaning and anticipation.
And it promises an ultimate return, that all you've kept unsaid will, in the end, turn into a book that tells your story. It reminds you that the true reckoning is internal.
The heart you wrote upon, the intent you carried, that's what truly matters, regardless of any external validation or expression.
Which feels like the perfect bridge to the next section.
Since we've wrestled with the silence that remains within, it's only natural that Anka then asks us to confront the largest silence of all, death.
Section 2. The shadow of death facing mortality and those who are left behind.
And Anka frames death not as a total erasure, but as this severe transformation, a final awakening.
The opening piece, On the Threshold of My Last Breath, explores death as the moment that breaks time's chains. He describes the world fading like a shadow,
Suggesting the veil is lifted, and you truly see for the first time. The terror of the end is conceptually replaced by the sharp clarity of the transition.
and that's where the final, almost brutal reckoning happens. When you're at that threshold, you suddenly see what truly mattered.
Anka lists the waste, doesn't he? Empty quarrels, time thrown away. but most painfully, words left unsaid.
Yes, that dawning, awful realization of being very late. Death, in this context, it's the ultimate clarity mechanism. It forces this painful reduction down to the essential core of a life.
This is immediately followed, though, by this spiritual reassurance, the structure of rebirth.
The seed metaphor. It's used so beautifully. The seed in the dark earth thinks it's rotting, but really it's putting down roots.
Death is the body falling, allowing the soul to rise. It's a conceptual refusal to accept the finality of material decay. It views the end as a profound beginning.
But emotionally, I think one of the most resonant pieces has to be, will I be forgotten? It just hits that deep human fear of erasure.
We spend so much energy trying to leave a mark, don't we? Anka forces the question, is lasting existence about the name you carve into eternity? Or is it about the quiet mark left by kindness?
He shifts the focus entirely from external fame to internal impact. If no one remembers your name, the text suggests you still lived if you touched another soul. If you left a light that prevents a world from dimming.
That internal residue, that invisible transfer of kindness, that's the true legacy.
And yet, the grief of loss is so palpable in a sentence of farewell. This piece focuses not just on our own mortality, but on the burden of the unfinished sentences we carry for those who left us.
The don't go, the don't forget, the words of love, or the apologies we should have offered them.
The pain here lies in what's most crucially missing. That last embrace, or maybe the chosen silence instead of a meaningful word.
But the emotional truth Anka brings out is that some bonds outlive both time and death. That we carry the essential fragments of those who have gone. It's a form of continuance.
He then takes this idea of emotional continuance and universalizes it with this concept of cosmic grief.
The imagery is so powerful that the sky, the wind, the mountains, the sea, they all participate in the feeling of absence after a loss.
It makes the sorrow feel less like a personal failure to cope and more like this integral, eternal part of the universe's design. Our grief isn't isolated, it's echoed by the world itself.
And conceptually, the answer to that incomplete farewell, the structural resolution, lies in the idea of the hidden book. Anka suggests that what we leave unfinished is actually completed between the lines. The sky gathers the dropped words. There's a cosmic register where everything is written.
So loss is only a passage. It leads to a path where there are only reunions, where no sentence is ever truly left unfinished.
It provides a kind of theological certainty against the very personal, sharp edges of existential dread.
That certainty, or at least the framework for it, is what guides us into the next section. Section 3, Reckonings, looking in the mirror and meeting the stranger within.
This is the confrontation. The realization that external escape is impossible. You have to face the person in the mirror.
In Who Was It I Saw? He captures that intense feeling of estrangement so well. The speaker sees a stranger, someone carved by time and shaped by others' expectations.
A shadow living in other people's dreams.
Yes, and the question isn't just who they are, but when did they stop being themselves? Or were they ever really me to begin with?
It's the exhaustion of navigating social life, where we're constantly performing. And in What Lies Beneath the Mask, he talks about that necessary social armor.
The charming smile, the proud stance, and the deep terror of standing utterly naked when those masks inevitably fall.
He meets that horrifying realization when the border between the mask and the true face just disappears. You've inhabited the role for so long that the mask has basically sunk into your flesh.
That's such a powerful description of psychic exhaustion. And Anka uses his conceptual clarity to address the reaction we all have, running.
In Running from My Own Shadow, he dissects the idea that external escape is just self-deception. Running is only hiding from yourself.
He says the shadow isn't a wall, it's a mirror reflecting the path you should have taken. And he states it so clearly. Running away is a form of imprisonment.
I love that analysis. The structural freedom he offers as a solution is beautiful. True escape is not running straight ahead, but rising, walking toward the source of light.
You turn your face to the sky so your shadow stays under your feet. The secret of the shadow isn't in its darkness, but in how the light falls on it.
It's a pivot of attention, not a physical change. And this whole confrontation culminates in the stranger within me. The speaker realizes that the relentless passage of time has erased the familiar self.
Leading to that internal question, who are you? And the poignant realization is that the stranger is the me that was abandoned, the one who waited patiently.
The sum of all I forgot, yet all that makes me who I am.
That's the untainted core, just waiting for the performance to finally end.
And here's the ultimate conceptual leap. Anka elevates this identity discovery beyond the personal ego. He calls this inner voice a divine whisper flowing through the universe.
Knowing the self better than the self knows itself.
And the self is defined as a trust and entrusted soul that is never scattered by the wind. It transforms that feeling of psychological fragmentation into this declaration of spiritual wholeness and permanence.
Following that intense self-reckoning, we are naturally led to examine how we interact with others. Section 4. Bonds and fractures relationships. Being left, not belonging.
This section explores that core human contradiction, doesn't it? The deep longing to belong versus the ultimate need for internal freedom.
And in A Shadow Left Behind, the pain of abandonment is so acute. The idea of being forgotten, not even being a crumb in someone else's world.
The ultimate realization of being disposable. But then Anka forces that turning point. Was I abandoned, or had I already abandoned myself long before this person walked away?
That shift in perspective is so emotionally demanding, it forces you to take accountability for your own internal neglect.
And this is where Anka provides that beautiful conceptual counterpoint. Hidden completion. He says even the most invisible shadows are remembered when eyes are closed. Every act of forgetting is pregnant with remembrance.
So the greatest loneliness isn't being ignored by others, it's living without awareness of your own self.
And we all carry those unfinished sentences of love, of apology, of forgiveness. They're the deep emotional residue of every broken human connection. We're burdened by what we should have said.
But here, the analysis provides a release. He argues that incompleteness is sometimes the heaviest form of completion.
Right. If spoken, some words lose their magic. They become finite.
So some things remain unfinished to be more infinite this way. The lack, the silence, is necessary for the meaning to endure in its purest form.
That reframes the burden of loose ends entirely. The almost existence in not belonging, always a little lacking, always a little too much, is therefore not a fault.
No, it's an inherent condition of a soul that can't be folded neatly into maps or expectations.
Which leads to that profound reframing of freedom. Not belonging is conceptually shifted from a lack into an endless freedom.
If you don't belong anywhere, you're like the wind. You can't be restricted. The soul stretches beyond time and space. And you realize the frantic search for belonging was just in the wrong places.
The ultimate belonging, the spiritual anchoring, isn't to a person or a city.
It's to the essence of everything, held by an unseen hand. True freedom is understanding what true bonds are and realizing you have always already been exactly where I belong.
It's a deep peace found not through acquisition, but through realization.
And that realization of one's place leads us naturally into the next section, Section 5, the chain of time, memory, and roads with no return.
This section addresses the inevitable slippage of moments, and it conceptualizes time not as a destructive force, but as a shaper, a refiner.
In moments that vanished, the loss of moments is analyzed with such tenderness. Time doesn't erase them, it gives them another shape, another tear.
The comfort offered is that what seems lost is simply waiting to be received in another world, like an oath or a promise. No thread is ever truly lost, only the pattern changes.
But that emotional pull to return is so strong and is captured in no way back. We instinctively want to revisit the past.
But the conceptual truth is that even if the physical path is the same, the traveler is not. Time pushes us forward relentlessly because, as Anka writes, clinging to the past is like entrusting a castle of sand to a storm.
And here's a gentle insight. The structural necessity of forgetting. A lifetime would be too heavy without it.
Forgetting isn't erasing something. It's turning the past into a framed picture on the walls of your heart. You acknowledge it, but you don't live inside the frame.
It's a quiet mercy.
The key conceptual analysis here is in time's hands. Anka beautifully relabels time not as a thief, but as a purifier, a sculptor.
What is taken away is excess weight, or surplus. It's stripping away the dross so the true gold-veined soul can meet the light.
It's like spiritual metalworking. All the pressure and misfortune aren't disaster. They're the fire burning off the impurities,
Leaving only the essential, refined self. Misfortune becomes a process of refinement, leading to completion through reduction. It relabels loss as spiritual gain, which is just such a powerful shift.
The emotional reality, however, is that what is broken never returns to what it was. That's in never quite the same again. The innocence, the unquestioning trust, it's gone.
But the emotional acceptance follows right after. The point isn't to patch the old structure, but to notice the light that seeps through the cracks. Loss is transformation. Destruction is the foundation of a new structure.
So if the old self is gone, what remains? The insight is that what broke was never truly owned by you in the first place.
The only remaining truth is the self that still hears a voice and keeps walking. And the conclusion is so profound. Every collapse is a mercy for the one who can truly see the opportunity for new architecture.
This clarity of sight leads us into the deeply personal territory of Section 6. Shame and regret, unspoken apologies, and silent crimes.
The struggle here is almost exclusively internal, isn't it? It's focused on the difficulty of self-forgiveness.
Exactly. The piece Too Late to Say I'm Sorry is incredibly moving. It captures the burden of those two words, I'm sorry, which were too heavy to speak in a whole lifetime.
The crushing regret comes from saying later, only to discover that time and chances are not possessions we own or control.
And Anka recognizes that the only enemy still accusing us is ourselves, living in the court of our own mind.
So forgiveness isn't about reversing time. It's about opening a door for yourself, acknowledging the past without living as its prisoner.
The heaviest apology, the text observes, is the one we owe to our own soul for having neglected it.
The structure for overcoming regret is addressed in Unable to Forgive Myself. He defines regret as a crossroad with two faces.
One shows the past, which is weeping. The other shows the future, which is learning and action. Weeping alone just repeats the mistake by dwelling in inertia.
And he insists that action is the only true path out. True self-forgiveness requires more than just wanting to be free. It demands action and change.
He lays out a specific sequence which shows his conceptual precision. First the precaution, then the prayer. First the deed, then the forgiveness.
The chance to relive the moment is redefined as the chance to make the right choice tomorrow, not yesterday. It shifts the entire focus forward.
It makes the process actionable and less paralyzing. And then there's the crushing concept of silent crimes.
The text argues that the heaviest form of guilt isn't an action, but an omission. Doing nothing is the greatest crime of all.
That speaks volumes to the internal court of conscience. The judge who whispers loudest not about the mistakes we made, but about the kindness we withheld, or the truth we failed to uphold.
That guilt doesn't involve external violence, only internal omission.
The section culminates with the powerful Jonah metaphor. The dark belly of the whale is not a sentence.
It's the deep embrace of mercy. The darkness is a moment of new birth, teaching that a soul lost only finds itself again by actively searching within that oppressive environment. The fall becomes the necessary environment for finding the way out.
Having wrestled with shame, we transition to Section 7, Fragile Strengths, the burden of always being strong.
This is about the exhaustion of endurance and the quiet resistance of the soul under constant pressure.
The weight of getting back up is a really resonant piece. It discusses the unseen effort of lifting all the disappointments, the pains, the past that sits like a stone.
Anka defines strength so well here. It's not in never falling, but in rising again for oneself, even when deeply wounded.
But the paradox follows swiftly in the exhaustion of being strong. For anyone who constantly projects competence, strength can become the heaviest chain.
The strong are often forgotten, aren't they? No one thinks they can be tired. It's a curse when it denies you the right to be human.
It's a concept that resonates deeply with anyone managing high expectations, and Anka gives permission here to finally lay that chain down.
The greatest courage, he suggests, is admitting breakability and just saying, I am tired. Strength is sometimes choosing to let go, allowing yourself to sit down and truly rest.
The deepest breath is taken only when you surrender the need to carry everything.
And Anka then offers a structural reread of the weight itself. What if the burden wasn't meant to crush you, but to show you what you can truly bear?
The greatest strength isn't the capacity to carry, but the wisdom to know when and what to release.
The call to rise, falling, and rising reframes the fall, not as a final ending, but as a means to take root. The test isn't the fall itself,
but for what one rises, with pride, anger, or with surrender. And that surrender is the acknowledgement of a higher purpose in the struggle.
The final stage of this fragile strength is detailed in Born from My Own Ruins. The collapse was just a birth pain. The realization dawns that the fire of loss changed the self, creating a new, greater version.
Collapse is redefined as the first stone of a new building, and the one who created you never leaves you half finished. It's a powerful testament to this continuous divine re-architecture of the self.
This feeling of being remade moves us into Section 8. Forgotten feelings, sense, photographs, and memories that refuse to fade.
The conceptual theme here is that memories are not erased. They're simply hidden, waiting for the right moment to return.
Laughing one last time captures that emotional poignancy we all feel as we age. It's the mourning of not knowing when that last moment of pure, unbroken laughter passed.
The current laugh, Anka notes, is shorter, more cautious, more tired. We mourn the innocence we didn't know we were losing until it was gone.
The structural reading of laughter here is fascinating. Anka suggests the cracked joy of this world is only a comma in a sentence not yet completed.
This world happiness is incomplete because true, pure laughter belongs to the promised place, a garden without fear or separation.
Every smile here is a kind of trial, or a signpost pointing toward that eternal joy. It frames our earthly happiness as inherently incomplete but meaningful.
Then there is the complex, sometimes painful relationship we have with the frozen image in Behind a Photograph.
Photographs, Anka warns, conceal a happiness that never truly was, or hide what is intensely missing. It captures the emotional labor of looking happy in a frame, while the unspoken truth is buried beneath the posed smile.
And the structural response to this is so beautiful. The true picture has not yet been taken. The most beautiful photograph will be captured in the finest light of earth and sky, in his presence, where time's teeth will no longer touch a single memory.
It displaces our reliance on flimsy earthly records and grounds our hope in eternity.
But the most powerful sensory trigger in this section is the analysis of scent in times with only their scent left.
Scent acts as an invisible bridge between now and then. It flings you back into forgotten years without warning. Memories are only hidden, waiting for the right breeze. It's the ultimate time machine.
It's unavoidable and potent. The text suggests that the feeling itself is what matters, but the feet must move forward. The past and future are not ours.
The road opens only for those who truly release the old. The contradiction, the scent calls backward, but the body moves forward, is the core tension of navigating the present moment.
Steps that never come back reinforces this. Going back is impossible because the only missing element is the past self. The me that walked those streets is gone.
You cannot retrieve who you were, only who you are becoming.
And the final lesson of this section defines true freedom. To move forward, you must be like the sky taking everything in, holding nothing, and the river never flowing backward.
The past, Anka concludes, is a weight only to the one who carries grudges.
This freedom prepares us for the intense internal crisis of Section 9, shattered beliefs, losing faith in self, prayer, and hope.
This section deals with that crisis of internal trust and the slow, difficult work of rebuilding a foundation.
It begins with that crushing internal conversation, not believing in myself, the shift from the encouraging "you can" to the critical whisper, "you are nothing, you are nothing."
The mistake, Anka suggests, is waiting for others to believe in you. The greatest act of faith is acknowledging your own existence, given that it is a gift.
Yet the text offers a crucial correction. Even self-belief is not enough. You must remember the root.
The greatest loss is not forgetting self, but forgetting to whom you belong. We are conceptualized as a trust placed by another, and our value derives from that source, not our own fragile will.
This uncertainty manifests powerfully in half-finished prayers, the emotional failure of not fully believing or being patient.
Prayer is often abandoned not because the answer isn't coming, but because the heart is not yet ripe or ready to receive it. The delay feels like a cruel rejection.
And Anka uses his conceptual framework to address prayer as a temporal challenge. Answers come at the right time, not at once.
Sometimes what was thought unanswered was a quiet mercy, shielding us from something we were unequipped to handle. The closed door hides a garden until you're ready to step into it.
Hope itself is viewed as a heavy burden in never hoping again. Hope is sometimes a fire that burns you to ash.
It leads a person to want to lay down the burden of expectation and just stop hoping.
But structurally, true hope is not attached to one's own fragile will, but to a promise given long before one's own existence.
The void that we feel is an illusion. Everything, Anka insists, is held in balance. True hope begins when you see the hand beyond the ruins, the architecture that remains after the collapse.
The section concludes with the powerful imagery of ashes of faith. The mountain of certainty, the old, rigid faith falls because it needed to fall.
Faith is not blind submission. It is walking through doubts and choosing to exist after being burned.
And the final, powerful conceptual image is that ashes are not merely remains. They carry new life. The fire has purified you.
Faith is bearing witness to the one who is creating anew at every moment, looking into the ruin and seeing a new architecture being raised. The fire changed you from the inside out, making you stronger.
We finally arrive at Section 10, escapes and shelters hiding, running away, and inner freedom. This serves as the ultimate realization that the real prison or freedom resides entirely within the self.
The place I hide explores the necessity of retreat. Sometimes hiding isn't weakness, but a necessary stillness, required to hear yourself above the noise.
The bravest journey is the one taken without moving at all. It's a necessary retreat before a difficult internal confrontation.
However, while really running away exposes the self-deception of flight. The road changes, the geography shifts, but the traveler does not.
Running is a paradox because the path inevitably returns to the runner. No external journey can possibly hide you from yourself, only delay the meeting.
And the danger of internal refuge is highlighted in shutting myself inside my dreams. Dreams start as a shield, but the danger is they can become a greater lie than reality.
You can disappear entirely while the real world moves on, leaving you locked in an illusion.
The imperative is clear. Dreams are not meant for ultimate escape, but for transformation and rebirth, a way to start again by confronting reality. The door must be crossed, and that door is in the heart of what is real.
The conceptual climax of the book is in the fierce introspection of the thorns in my mind. The final prison is the mind itself.
The chains are in the thoughts, the thorns are sewn within the conscious self. The mind, believing itself sovereign, is only an ant trying to measure the sky with its eyes.
The ultimate realization here is one of accountability and power. I sowed the thorns, but I am also the one who can pull them out.
True freedom, Anka defines, is not untying one's own chains, but binding the self to where it truly belongs, to that divine whisper, to that eternal root.
This requires a silence more real than anything invented. Freedom is recognizing that a word greater than the self was already spoken and walking the path he has shown.
It's about aligning the small self with the greater reality.
The book's formal conclusion, beyond the unspoken, reinforces the entirety of the work. This book holds the things left unspoken, yet he promises that this content has always been inside the reader.
It is not just written but lived. And the final gentle lesson is that sometimes the most meaningful thing is to say nothing at all, allowing the inner echo to simply exist.
The book ends, but the words, he assures us, continue to live inside the reader long after the final page is turned.
So if we look back at the grand architecture of the whole work, Feroz Anka moves with such extraordinary conceptual clarity, from the crushing weight of swallowed silence in Section 1
to the infinite freedom found in surrender in Section 10. The 10 sections form this cohesive circular journey where every collapse inevitably leads to recreation.
And the eternal principle underlying the entire text is that profound, reassuring idea that nothing is truly lost.
Not a word, not a tear, not an ash. Every collapse is fundamentally a creation, and the human being is always held in an unseen balance.
Anka uses his ability to dissect complex systems to explore existential ambiguity, which gives his writing this grounded, structured feel, even when he's dealing with the metaphysical and the intensely personal.
His purpose seems to be to illuminate what remains human beneath the noise of modern life. He's not offering a simple guide to self-help.
No, it's a deep exploration of vulnerability, of resilience, and of the slow, necessary work of the soul.
And this is why the work matters so profoundly to a reflective reader. It offers no easy answers, but it offers a clear mirror and a language for the deep, private emotions we all carry.
It provides a quiet companion for those who are grieving, rebuilding, or just seeking some introspection on a restless night.
This is a book that really demands to be read slowly, in stillness, not in haste.
We would suggest reading it alongside a journal, allowing those quiet interrogations to surface and take root. Just let the text sit with you.
As we close this deep dive, we invite you to carry these reflections forward. If you choose to seek out this work, consider these thoughts for yourself.
Which unsaid sentence do you still carry inside you, waiting for its hour to erupt and transform you?
If you stripped away all your masks, which truth that you've been running from would stand naked beneath them?
And finally, what essential truth might you discover if you simply stopped running away and allowed yourself to stand still, facing the shadow that is already beneath your feet?
The words will go on living inside you long after you have finished reading them.